Back here at the Beach House Grill, Old Town Fort Collins for the Coors Light Steve Fairchild Coaches Show. Coaches Show brought to you by Poudre Valley Health System. They're proud to be the exclusive healthcare sponsor of Ram Athletics. For more information, visit pvhs.org. Well, we've talked about the injuries and players going down, but let's talk about player coming back. And the heart and soul of that defense, Mike Sisson, went down back on September the 10th with a broken ankle. And after he got hurt, he said, I'm coming back. And the game he had circled on his calendar was the TCU game. And he's been out on the practice field for you here this week, and he says he's going to go.
And it looks like he is. And, when this all happened, he had a pretty serious break of the ankle with a plate put in there and a high ankle sprain. And he told me he was going to play at TCU. And Terry DeZeo, our trainer, was thinking more Air Force or even later than that, even bowl game. And I thought Mike was kind of just shooting for the stars, but guys like him, you don't want to sell short. I mean, he's rehabbed that thing and done everything he's had to do, and did a lot last week, and he's actually practicing this week, so we anticipate him playing, and that's a great thing for not only him, our football team, because he's such an inspirational leader on our team. To have him out there makes a lot of people very, very happy.
Do you guys have any idea on how you're going to use him, how many plays, snaps he might see?
I don't know the number of snaps. A little of that will be how he feels. But he's going to rotate in a linebacker. He'll play in some of our nickel packages, and he's going to play a lot of football for us. And I know he's raring to get back. And nothing better than to see a guy like that who you think's going to lose their senior year after they've worked so hard to have a chance to come back and put the uniform on one more time. It's a great thing.
Well, linebacking core I think it's played well for you here this year. 3 of the top 5 tacklers in the Mountain West Conference on your linebacking core. So, boy, that just adds to the depth of what you guys can do there.
It really did. We lost Mike Wallach early, and he was our starting middle linebacker. And then Mike Sisson, who arguably is our best playmaker on defense, went down early in the second game. But Shaq Barrett is having a year in the middle that I'm not sure there's been anybody better in the league doing what he's doing. And Mike Rackpo's had a tremendous year, and James Skelton. So there's some depth. We played a true freshman in there some, and there's been some guys getting time. So just bodes well for the future. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have played. There's a lot of competition, and very pleased with how they've been playing.
Now, Aaron Davis, the true freshman that Steve just mentioned there. All right, we'll take a timeout. When we come back, Paul Madsen, senior offensive lineman, will join us. Stay tuned for that from Delegan Sports at the Colorado State Sports Network. All right, a few more segments left on the program here. Welcome back. Coors Light Steve Fairchild Coaches Show. Talking some Rams football here at the Beach House Grill. Brian Roth again back with you. And we're joined by senior offensive lineman Paul Madsen. And he's been anchoring that weak side tackle position for Colorado State. And, of course, been battling injuries, man. The first the knee, then you went down with an ankle injury against San Diego State. I shouldn't say you went down because you played the rest of the way. How are you doing health-wise?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm hoping some adrenaline and some painkillers will get me through TCU, and I'm excited to go up against them. They got some good athletes, but I think we have some good players.
The sprained knee against Boise State, you only missed one game, and I know talking to the coaching staff going into UNLV, they said, yeah, we're going to get Paul Madsen a few snaps here and there. You virtually played the entire game against UNLV.
Yeah, I even surprised myself a little bit. I went into that game thinking I would go every other series or maybe a quarter or two, and I just kept going, and it felt good. So,
yeah, and of course, it's your senior year. It's the last time you're going to be able to play college football. Talk about the young tackles on this team, because Ty Sambrilo has had to come in and play tackle. Mason Hathaway has had to come in, and you talk about Brandon Haynes a little bit. Talk about some of the young offensive linemen in this program.
They are young, and it was very unfortunate that we had other tackles go down early in the year with those ACL injuries. But the thing I like about these tackles is they're hard workers, and they just keep going, and they work on their technique, and that's the main thing that you need with young guys. You just need guys that are going to work and that are going to keep trying to get better.
Yeah. Then you lose Weston Richburg. What's going through your mind on Saturday when you see Weston go in the locker room with a busted right hand?
My heart broke. It's really hard to see a center go down with a hand injury on his right hand. It just was a was a really bad combination. But he's a fighter, and he's a real tough guy, and he's going to play other positions besides center, and he might snap left-handed like you guys were talking about earlier. And I'm impressed with him. I think he's really battling through this.
And Paul Madsen, senior offensive tackle, joining us here. Run game is starting to get going. You look at the UNLV numbers: 250, rushed for well over 200 yards against San Diego State. What have you seen to be the key in getting this run game going?
I think a big key is just working together as an offensive line. I think learning how to communicate a little bit better, learning how the running backs run a little bit helps us a lot.
Yeah. I asked Coach Fairchild about that toss sweep play to Woke. It worked well against UNLV. It was magnificent in its effectiveness this past week. And Coach Fairchild said, you're the key to that. Take us through your job on those toss sweeps when they're coming to your side.
Well, my job is to reach the outside guy, and if I can kind of hook him and pin him on the inside, I do that. Otherwise, he tries to beat me on the outside. Essentially, I just stretch it out. But, I play a role in that play, but also Jake Godowski plays a big role. He needs to get a linebacker, needs to get the defensive tackle. So there's lots of moving parts, but I think as a unit, we've really mastered that.
When you see that play start to be effective and you hear it called in the huddle, do you kind of get excited?
I do, because I can tell defensive ends get a little bit nervous about it, because it kind of surprises them. Because I try not to give it away in my stance. We don't give it away in our formations, and it's effective, so it's fun.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that, because you really have to get to the outside and seal that off. I imagine it's easy to tip your hand, if you will, to give that away before the ball is snapped. Yeah, I mean, you can fall into that, start leaning to that side, start looking to where you're going. I mean, you have to mask that, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes I try to look the other way and stuff, but, it definitely is a unit thing. Like, if Jake misses his block, it's not going to go. But it's a very fun play, in my opinion.
Paul Madsen joining us again, offensive lineman for Colorado State. All right, Garrett Grayson in at quarterback. What was his demeanor like when he trots out in the second quarter? He hasn't taken a snap all year. He's a true freshman, and he's thrown into the fire in a real game.
I was actually really impressed with how he did. He got out on the field. He was thrown in, and he has a difficult series, and he comes out, and I go to the sidelines to comfort him a little bit and to kind of gauge where he's at. And he had such a high maturity level. I was trying to comfort him, and he looked at me and he said, "Paul, I'm doing fine." And so I was really impressed with that. And, he kept just a high level of confidence.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, for him to be kind of level-headed about it, because there's a lot of guys that would be in panic mode. All right, final 3 games of the year, Paul. Your thoughts as we hit the stretch run here?
I actually think we have a really good, fighting chance against TCU. I think they're probably looking past us, and I think our coaches are taking it very seriously. We have some excellent plays going in and some play combinations, and I think we could really surprise people with our performance.
All right, man. Good luck on Saturday, and stay healthy, all right?
All right, thanks.
All right. That's Paul Madsen, offensive tackle for Colorado State. We'll be joined by Pat Meyer, offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, coming up next on the Colorado State Sports Network. Welcome back here, Beach House Grill, Old Town Fort Collins. We continue to talk Rams football here on the Colorado State Sports Network. Again, thanks to Paul Madsen, the senior offensive lineman. Newlywed, I'm told. Huh,
newlywed.
Coach Meyer?
Yeah, March. I married in March. Newlywed.
Congratulations, Paul. We would have started grilling you about that and about your wife. No, we wouldn't have done that to you. Pat, thanks for joining us. Pat Meyer, by the way, offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, run game coordinator. Do you have any other titles?
Only if Coach Fairchild wants to give me another one, that'd be fine with me.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about Paul Madsen. Yeah, he's a mature kid, obviously a little bit older, but he's I thought he'd done an excellent job for you here this year, as you knew he was going to coming into the season.
No, like great kid. Like I said, when you say mature, I think I was in high school. I think Paul was entering high school when I graduated high school. So we're about the similar age, I believe. But just great. Ever since I've been here, Paul's been here, and just been just a solid player, kid. He does everything right. He works hard. He's tough. Like I said, most kids wouldn't practice. He practiced today with a high ankle sprain. He's got a boot on right now. He walked up to the table, he looked like a pirate. But he practiced. I mean, he's just a just a tough kid. Football's important to him. He's got a future in football. He's gonna have a shot, playing at the next level. He's just a great individual. He's brought up the right way. He's just a great kid.
What is it like to be the offensive line coach on a team that has at one point lost both tackles and starting center? Not fun, I imagine.
You know what? It keeps me on my toes. It does. If they were all healthy, I'd be bored all day.
Yeah.
I'd be bored. So it keeps me on my toes. You got to mix guys up and do that. You know what? We're fortunate. We mentioned a bunch of the young players. We do. We have a bunch of good young players, that have had to step up. And it's been a shame that, they had to play so much for us. But they've done a nice job. And kids like Paul, that their work ethic and those kids coming in when they're freshmen and redshirt freshmen, they see that and they know how to work. So that helps us out in the long run too. So that's how we've been able to kind of keep piecing it together.
Yeah, when I first heard Coach Fairchild on Monday saying that's a possibility that Weston Richburg can snap with his left hand, your center, how much of a possibility is that? I mean, you know it better than anybody, having coached all those guys. I mean, is that a real possibility, or is it only a possibility for certain type of players?
Oh, no. I mean, he can do it. I mean, he's practiced doing it. He's practiced doing it left-handed. He's kept doing it. But you know what? If he doesn't, the kid backing him up is a senior, and Tyler McDermott. He's done a great job. I mean, he's played a bunch this year. When we've had the tackle situation, we've moved Weston out to weak tackle, and Paul missed a few reps, and strong tackle, and Tyler's come in, has done a great job. So we're just put the best 5 out there, and we may roll a couple guys in here or there, and just mix them up and do that again, just to keep me on my toes and keep us on our toes. But the kids they're working hard. They're doing a nice job for us.
Pat Meyer, offensive coordinator, joining us here on the Coors Light Steve Fairchild Coach Show. A couple final thoughts. And speaking about keeping you on your toes, you have to go up against a pretty good defense on Saturday. Talk a little bit about that defense that always seems to be so good against the run.
Well, I mean, it's TCU. They're historically been a great defensive team, and this one's no different. They're going to run their, regardless. We rushed the ball, the last couple of weeks for a bunch of yards. They're going to run their defense. They're going to sit there and say, we're going to stop you. So we're going to have to, try to attack it a couple different ways, because they do. They're talented. I mean, they beat Boise. They're, ranked in the top 15 in the country. They're a talented team. They have a bunch of good players on their side of the ball. So it's going to be, it's going to be a big challenge for us. But it's a challenge that, I think we're ready for, and the kids are excited about it. So I think it's going to be a fun game for us.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about Garrett Grace. I know you don't work with him specifically out in the practice field, but when you get a true freshman that's in the mix there, do you do anything different offensively? Do you guys make some changes?
You got to, trim some things down from the offense standpoint. But again, he's a confident kid. He's a sharp kid. He throws the ball well. He can get out of some pressure type kind of thing. So, we'll trim it down a little bit, but we're going to run our offense with Garrett. I tell you what, he's been, this week of practice, he's really been sharp. He's throwing some nice balls, and he's been taking a nice role in leadership, in his leadership part, which he needs to do as a quarterback. So he's done a terrific job. I look forward to seeing how he plays this week. I really do.
And especially getting the reps that he's been getting in practice.
He's been getting 95% in them. So again, I'm excited about it because he's excited. You can see it. He's not nervous. He's upbeat. He's going. The look in his eye, you can tell that he's ready to go. So it's going to be an exciting weekend for us.
Yeah, that's all good news. All right, Pat, thanks so much. Best of luck Saturday.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's Pat Meyer, offensive coordinator and offensive line coach here at Colorado State. Back with the coach, Steve Fairchild, after this from Nelligan Sports, the Colorado State Sports Network. A couple more segments left here on the program as we take you up to 7 o'clock tonight on the Colorado State Sports Network. Ram fans, don't forget, coming up next week, the Steve Fairchild Show moving from Wednesday to Tuesday because of the holidays and, of course, Thanksgiving on Thursday. So the next Steve Fairchild Coach Show coming up on Tuesday, November the 22nd. That'll be at 7 o'clock. I'm not sure yet. I think Kevin McGlue might be filling
bailing
in.
out on me, huh?
Well, I'm not bailing out on you. They've kind of done the report.
I'm glad you reminded me. I would have shown up on Wednesday and nobody would have been here.
I'm being replaced, Steve. it's one of those things you just don't get the job done. You bring in the next guy, and he'll get the job done. But no, again, Tuesday at 6 o'clock coming up next week. TCU, they beat Boise here this past week, and I was a little surprised by that. Not completely surprised, but boy, that looked like a wild game up there in Boise.
It looked like a well played, tight football game that went down to the wire, but I was not surprised. I think TCU still has been the class of the Mountain West Conference past few years, and until somebody knocks them off, that's what they are. And Gary Patterson, he's been there a long time, and even back to the days when he was a defensive coordinator, and they've just done a nice job. They coach well, they recruit well, they're on a little bit of a roll. And, they're what we aspire to be. And I think Colorado State has the facilities and the resources to match that. And, it's our job to get our program back to where they're at.
TCU went for 2. They scored a touchdown. They were down 7, scored a touchdown with 1:05 to go. Got them within 35-34. They went for 2. They got it for the win. Talk about that decision-making process as a coach.
That's a gutsy call. There's no question. But, Gary, I heard some of Gary, saw some of Gary's quotes, and they were on the road.
Sure.
It's a very high-scoring game, and you get into those overtime things when teams are moving the ball on you, anything can happen. So they probably had a 2-point play they liked, and felt like why not take the lead here and play defense, which they always do, and it worked out for them.
It snapped Boise State's 35-game home win streak and knocked Boise from the ranks of the unbeaten. It was the first conference game that Boise had lost since 1998 at home. Of course, most of those games coming
WAC conference games,
but
nonetheless, Boise's on a real good streak, and they kind of remind me of Coach Lubick and the teams we had here in the 90s. That just the style of play and the way they recruit and kind of their geographical location and so forth. So, they've done a great job as well. And the games like that can go either way. But
sure.
But TCU sure is like I said, they're in the driver's seat at this point.
All right, we'll talk more about some of the TCU personnel coming up after this timeout. Stay with us from Elegant Sports and the Colorado State Sports Network. Again, the Rams and Frogs coming up this weekend, and talk a little bit more about TCU here on this final segment. Coors Light Steve Fairchild Coach's Show, and you look at that defense, they're always outstanding. They've given up a few more yards and points this year than in previous years, but I know they're just as good probably in your mind.
Well, they really are, and they've got the premier player defensively in the league, and Tank Carter coming back as an inside linebacker that I guess was the player of the game in the Rose Bowl. So very, very good defense football team. They always are that way. They're very fast. And we're going to have our hands full. I mean, it's we're going to have to play our best offensive football game to have any chance.
And then how about that defensive end, Stanley Maponga? Boy, is he good.
Yeah, he's very quick and, very, very talented young guy that, has shown up quite a bit. But they've got a number of guys, both corners, all their safeties, that they're very talented.
Meanwhile, offensively, and I know Andy Dalton's a huge loss for them, and obviously he's having a great season as a rookie with the Cincinnati Bengals, but Casey Pahal, boy, he has looked very good.
Really stepped in nice. I did think losing Andy Dalton was a big deal. Andy, I thought, played a lot of football for them and played it very, very well. And I was getting a lot of calls from guys in the NFL asking about him, and, he kind of was under the radar a little bit, but very talented young man. But Casey stepped in nice, got a big arm. The one thing he can do now is use the entire field. He's got enough arm to put the ball to wide side numbers, and really they've got great skill around him too. They're very, very fast on the offense side of the ball.
Yeah, then they played 3 running backs. Does that make it more difficult to scheme against?
Well, I think it just keeps those guys fresh, and they keep pounding at you. And they're all very good players. So, like I said, Gary's done a good job recruiting. That's a good football team.
Yeah, a key or two to the game coming up Saturday for your team?
I think on the road, you got to win the turnover battle. There's no question. We need a good, solid game out of Garrett. He's got to play very calm and when they give us a chance, we got to make a big play offensively. Defensively, we just got to try to contain them as best we can.
All right, Steve, best of luck Saturday. We'll talk to you then.
Thank you very much.
Ram head coach Steve Fairchild, thanks to everybody that helped us out here tonight. Paul Madsen, senior offensive lineman, joining us, along with Pat Meyer, offensive coordinator. Charlie Grimes was back at Master Control. Bob Greenfield, engineering here. I'm Brian Roth saying so long, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday night right here at the Beach House Grill in Fort Collins.